Between school, your friends, and social media, answers are everywhere. But where can you find the truth? Welcome to the StudentCast. We're asking for a friend so that you don't have to.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the StudentCast. My name is Ka'eo, and I'm here with my friend
Brynn. What's
Let's
up, party people?
We're back, and I'm so glad to be back. And honestly, the weather is beautiful.
It is beautiful, and we're back asking questions for a friend, so you don't have to.
Exactly.
And we're
Thank you
just
for reminding us.
I know. What if we forgot?
I know. It's been a while for
and there's
me.
just no question ever asked. That'd be pointless.
It would be, but we're back, and we have questions.
We do. And my first question for you, Ka'eo, is what are you doing with your Monday nights now that The Bachelor's not on?
It's tough, honestly. I'm actually really bummed. A couple.
Do you actually watch it? I was kidding.
So, yes, pieces of it. Honestly,
Okay.
not like routinely. Mm-hmm. I really want to be like those people that play a Bachelor or Bachelorette bingo.
Oh, like they make. There's people that I know that make they draft picks
That's
of
hilarious.
who they are is on their team for the year, and if they
football? That's incredible.
Yes. And actually, the people I'm talking about are boys from the well. So, nice. Not even a group of girls for the record.
That explains the drafting experience. Nice. Yeah, tough. But anyways, so that's what, I don't know. I guess I'll play pickleball. It is pickleball season again.
I love pickleball.
So I might do that
I've been getting
Monday
back
nights.
into it because the weather's better and all the things. But it's funny that you actually watch it. I was really kidding. But I used to watch it. I don't watch it as much anymore. Because I think I've kind of gotten tired of the same old every year.
It is like just watching buildings on fire sometimes. I just can't turn away.
In what way?
It's just one time, the first episode, for instance, the first episode. It's like they all come in, it's like they all parade in, and I don't even know. It changed up a little bit, but every time someone doesn't make it,
every year.
Yeah, someone doesn't make it, and they start bawling, and I'm just like, you had 10 seconds with the dude or the girl, you know what I mean?
Super fair. Most people have that take on it. They're like, you don't even know him. You haven't even, you kind of said each other's first name. You did your limo entrance and then you got broken up with and were crying.
Yeah,
really?
Give him a hug or something. And then they
And they're like, I didn't even get to talk to him.
Yeah.
I get it. I honestly, I'm too empathetic sometimes. But when people are like, I don't understand why they're crying. I'm like, I think this could be a passion project for me.
Okay.
I understand it. Because these girls or guys on the other seasons, they go, they get all ready, they're putting themselves out there, and they're like, I'm gonna meet my husband or I'm gonna meet my wife. I'm gonna win this thing.
Yes.
And then first night, it's not they didn't even make it to the second night.
Yeah.
So it's right out the bat, nope, you're done. And so they're not crying because Joey, the Bachelor, didn't like you. They're crying because I feel like, empath over here, the girl's like, oh my gosh, I'm never chosen. I'm never enough. I just got rejected in front of all these people. I'm never going to be chosen, actually.
Yeah,
I'm not pretty enough. No one's going to see me. All these things.
And even TV, everyone on TV saw all this happen.
Yes, so they're crying about that. They're not crying about Mr. Joey, tennis
So that
player.
makes a lot of sense because I feel like, that's a form of rejection, but across all forms of it, not just romantic rejection. It's almost even cultural rejection, society rejection. Now it's wow, even society might not agree to, of my worth.
Yeah.
And we experience that almost pretty daily, actually.
Yeah. And I think that that's the thing that we're talking about is rejection is not even necessarily just what you got rejected from.
Yeah.
It's all the lies and things that we add onto it when rejection comes.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what we're talking about today.
That brings us to our question, right? What do we do when we get rejected, or how do I process rejection? We actually had a lot of those of just okay, this happens a lot, and what do I do with it? And I thought, well then let's talk about it.
Totally.
Especially I don't think there's actually a perfect season for it. It's because we deal with it on the daily.
All the time. And I think that while we're talking about rejection, the initial thing that we think through is in a romantic way, but rejection comes in a lot of different ways. It can be not getting into a college that you were expecting to, or not making a certain team, or into leadership.
I had a couple of my friends interviewed for a job and they were sorry, you're going with someone else. You're
finding out there's a group message that you weren't put in. We experience rejection a lot, actually. And before we kind of talk about what, I don't know, even what we've seen the Lord do through these things and what we see, how we can move forward in it. I think a good place to start is what often comes up when we face rejection.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say probably for me, often what comes up is just my worth immediately. I must not be good enough, obviously, because you went with someone else, or I feel like I was chosen over something.
Yeah.
Another one for me often too is then I start almost spiraling where I'm like, okay, like if I'm not good enough now, will I ever be? Almost like there is like kind of despair, rejection and despair kind of come together for me. And then the last thing I think is, I don't know about you guys, but oftentimes when I get rejected, it's like the world crashed.
Yeah.
So that's usually what comes up for me. I don't know. What about you, Brynn?
Super relatable. I think for me, it's a lot of lies of self where it's like similar to what we just talked about. Like, okay, if this person rejected me, that means that's how everyone sees me. Or like, I wasn't good enough for this, and therefore I'm not going to be good enough for any of these things in the future either. And even just that lie of like, I feel like when rejection comes for me, I like isolate or feel incredibly lonely, where it's like, I'm the only one who doesn't get chosen. I'm the only one that is feeling this way. And so that's where I see the enemy like really attack in, is that like isolation and pulling away. Well,
what's wild is that like rejection it's common. We all experience it. And yet I think all of us experience the spectrum of those feelings after. Like it is interesting that like this one thing and then everyone experiences it. It's a common experience for everybody. And I don't know. I think a lot of times too for that, society almost reinforces it, because then it's like, all right, like you need to do better, so we're going to choose someone else, and all it requires us is that we have to earn everything then. And then we don't have like this sense of like, I am enough already.
Totally.
And so I think that also really inhibits our relationship with the Lord later. We'll talk about that. But you know what I mean?
Which is super relatable. Like while you're talking, I was like, oh, that's what I do. Like, I'm like, okay, I wasn't good enough. And so now I'm going to take it into my own hands and start striving and being like, I didn't get chosen because of, I'll try to find the reasons where I'm like, there has to be, like, as emotional as I say that I am, I'm also very logical. So I'm like, there has to be a reason. 2 + 2 = 4. What's the formula? What was I missing here? And so I'll like drive myself crazy to be like, let's find reasons and then fix them. And so then we go into this striving and like control white knuckling of like, I'm going to fix this so that doesn't happen again. Instead of really just sitting with like, okay, maybe this just wasn't meant for me. Or like this, I heard a definition. There's this girl named Nicoletta Bradley on Instagram. Really good account to follow, girls. I mean, guys too, but girls. But she posted this definition of a thing called miracle of sight. And it says, someone finds you attractive, worth pursuing, or desirable based on the Lord giving that person eyes to see you, rather than being pursued based on your own control, manipulation, looks, or personality. And so there's scripture, Proverbs 21:1 says, the king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord, and he turns it wherever he will. And so embracing the fact that like us seeing anything or desiring anything, the Lord's in control of our hearts. And so he's going to soften our hearts towards things, whether it's people, whether it's activities, whether it's whatever it is. And so if someone's not seeing you or choosing you, the reality might just be like the Lord isn't giving them the eyes to see you. And so that could make us really angry, or it can make us be like, okay, like, Lord, you are good and you're in control and you are not allowing this person to see me. There must be a reason for that.
It's almost a bit freeing. I think if you look at that perspective, it's like, okay, wait, that's freeing because someone else is in charge and they must know better. The problem is though, is we get in the way of that, being like, but is it? I don't know. You know, like this is what I've always wanted, or I've always wanted to be on that team, or I had dreams about being, you know, I don't know, insert your thing here. And then for you to come to the reality of that, maybe that might not be the best thing. That's hard. That's actually hard to swallow. My pride wouldn't let me, honestly.
For sure. Well, and because we think that we know what's best. And so this is going to be a dumb example, but think of it this way. You guys have heard us talk about before. Our two passion things that we joke about is I'm like, Cheaper by the Dozen 2 is the best movie ever. I can't force Ka'eo to think that.
No.
Like I can't just keep saying that over and over and over again and him suddenly be like, you know what? You're right. Ka'eo will never be able to force me to think that mint chocolate chip ice cream is good. I will always think that it is toothpaste ice cream.
We've tried.
We like can't force someone to like the thing or see the thing that we see as best to work out kind of thing. And I feel like sometimes we do that with the Lord where we're like, no, I know that this is
so
it.
Convicting. Keep going.
I'm like, hey, do you see this? 2 + 2 = 4. Let's keep going with that formula. 2 + 2 = 4. This adds up, Lord. You see this?
Yes.
Like, I know what's best. I'm living this. I know what I want. I know how this works. I can actually see how this is going to play out. It's good.
And he's like, actually, 4 is not enough for you. I want 5.
You
know, so let's take out that 2, and I want to give you a 3 instead. You know what I mean? But we're like, 4 is enough.
4 is enough. I'm good with this. like, you're not seeing something, Lord. Like, what?
Yeah.
No. And because we know what we want, but the Lord knows what we need. And so when we're being all this,
say
like,
that again, Brynn. I think our people need to hear that again.
we know what we want, but the Lord knows what we need. And so he knows us better than we know ourselves. So if I'm like operating with this, like, no, Lord, you're wrong. What I just got rejected from is my purpose in life. That is the only person I can be with. This is the best plan for me. I'm like inherently saying is, Lord, I know better than you. And actually I should be in control, but I don't want that. Like I would be a horrible God.
Yeah.
So,
we like to think we'd be great, but we're actually really not that good. Yeah. That's really good. That's a really good perspective, Brynn. You had a lot of really good nuggets in there for us to even chew on and think about. I think enough already was for me being like, wow, like I know what I want, but God knows what I need. And just because I like, I don't know, like a dramatic illustration is like, just because I want to go jump in the fire doesn't mean I need to jump in the fire, you know,
for
very
sure.
dramatic.
You're like, I'm cold though.
Exactly. Help me. This is better.
The Lord's like, here's a blanket.
Yeah, it's actually way better. But on my end, I think, after rejection, I started being like, then I'm not good enough for anything. So I'll start settling, thinking I don't deserve to be in places that God wants me to be. I almost start self-sabotaging in the future.
Yeah.
And so
or like placing lies on other things where it's like, well, they didn't want me, so obviously you're not going to want me.
Yeah. I confuse everyone for someone. Thinking that
real.
like, just because one person said this, everyone now thinks this. And even they've never indicated that at all. And then even when they have good motives or they're like, actually, Ka'eo, we want you to do this instead. All I hear is, no, like you don't, like, I'm not the best or I'm not good enough here. So then what happens then is just like, I don't try anymore, or I'm not going to like put myself out there, or I'm not going to strive. So it's very different. Like you're like, I'm going to use this, empower and equip, and then
I'm going to win this rejection.
Exactly. And then I'm like, you know what? I am just rejected. I like almost take that as my identity. And I think that's where I start spiraling. And so I think for me to get out of that is very similar to what you said, just it looks different.
Yeah.
Is I have to replace the fact that my identity was never in what other people put on me, because that means then I'm making them God, because they're deciding who I am. And I need to remind myself that actually God is God in my life, and it matters what he says.
Totally.
But that is like harder to do, I think, to be
absolutely.
Like, yeah, I know you're not God, so I'm not going to listen to you. But like, you know what I mean? Like it just kind of breaks out.
For sure. I think what's so interesting, what I hear you saying, I don't know, that was so good. And to hear both of us have different kind of like next steps that we take. But I could be so off base, but what I hear in both of them is they're like operating out of this self-protection and fear base where you're like, if I just say that everyone's going to view me this way, I can't be disappointed.
Yeah. I'm like controlling my hurt.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, if I can just fix all the things, then I can prevent anyone else from seeing it that way. And so, but both of those things are out of like, I'm going to protect this from happening again or feeling this way again. Whereas in the Lord, there's rest and there's like just freedom to be. And yes, there's vulnerability with other people still hurting us, but trusting that the Lord doesn't reject us. I mean, that's the gospel. Like he sent his only son down to live a perfect life, die for our sins, like because he wants relationship with us. So there's no rejection in him. But like, I don't know. So I think resting in that over making the list of all the people that have rejected us and trying to avoid that feeling again. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. Because, God doesn't abandon us at all. That's what he says. He never forsake us. That's so good. Yeah, if that's one truth you need to hear, people, is that God has never, ever forsaken you. So, well, then that leads us to, like, what's next then? So, like, we talked about what we experience in rejection. We kind of hit on a little bit, like, how then, therefore, it affects us and how we try to get out of it. But I think it would be good for, our listeners to know, like, okay, so I know you're not going to give me 5 easy steps, but what is something practical that I could maybe work towards when I'm experiencing rejection?
It's good. I think this is going to be such Jesus juke, Christian cliche, all the things. But I think something I'm processing right now is like the real truth and the fact that we can't find comfort in the Lord if we don't know who he is. And so we have to sit and really dwell on the fact, like, who is God? Yeah. If I'm going to say that the peace in this and the rest in this is to trust that God has good plans for me, and that him like protecting me from something that wasn't for me is out of his like good character, then I actually have to know who he is to trust the plans he has for me. And so really sitting in like, what is God's character? And then debunking the lies that we believe about him. And so I feel like I've been in a process of being like, what at like a gut level honesty, like really being true to what my heart is feeling. What do I view about the Lord? And writing those out and being like, okay, Lord, lie here is I don't believe that you want good things for me. Like, I know that's true in my head, but when I look at like the way I look at rejection or suffering or things like that shows that I don't actually believe that you want good for me. And so, okay, lie, identify it. That's not true. Say that to someone. I'm believing this about the Lord. Allow them to speak truth into you, but also like open your Bible and be like, where do I see what the Lord's character is and that he does love me? I am Pinterest momming it up right now. And like literally you should see my room. I have Post-it notes just like
let's go
above my bed where I like write down the lie and write down the truth that combats that and just like post it on the wall as like a declaration. Like this is what's true, not what my brain and humanness is going to. But yeah, so I think that was like one tangible thing that's been helpful for me in combating those lies that come up through rejection.
That's awesome. That's actually really good to have like daily reminder right in front of you. That's awesome. I wasn't even going to say like under my bathroom mirror, I would write scriptures. That's the first thing I see. But you already get that one. So I would probably say for another one is I can get my own echo chamber of like this is what it is. This is the reality. And like my own narrative starts to like, I paint my reality with the narrative that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And I almost need like someone to help snap me out of it. And so my buddy and I, especially I experienced like rejection, or I sense a little bit of rejection. Sometimes it's not even real. That is something that's really important. Sometimes we feel rejected, but it's actually not actually what's happening. We'll actually go and do something that like I know that I can do pretty good at. It sounds so dumb to be like, yeah, I'm gonna do something that I excel in. But then that helps me be like, okay, wait, no, I'm not like absolutely trash or absolutely not good enough. I do have, I'm just maybe my skill set's different, right?
Yeah.
And then that way it just all helps me be like, wait, no. Okay, yes, I may not be gifted in all the things, but I am gifted in something. And that almost like helps my worth come back. It seems very cliche to do, but I've seen sports people will say it like, it's like, yeah, if you're trying something new, go back to what's like comfortable again, that you're like, okay, yeah, here's a win. I know I'm doing good here. So.
And embracing the ways the Lord's gifted you and wired you to be like, okay, Lord, this is you on display. That's good. My next one would probably be, I just had it on the top of my head. Here we are. Like, you guys are going to be like, I just got rejected. I don't want to be grateful. But genuinely writing out a list, when we get rejected, our tendency, again, is to see that rejection and play it out on everyone else. Or like focus in on the one person that's not choosing, or the one team or the one coach or the one whatever that's not choosing you. And like totally forget the people who do love you and the things that you have been chosen for. And so that's been a like practice of mine, is like writing out on those days and being like, who are the people in my life that do love me that like do value me and that do choose me. And maybe it's one person, like, but that's one person who sees you, you know?
Yeah.
And so huge. Thanking the Lord for how he's provided in those ways.
That's good. I think the next one for me would be oftentimes, like I said, I tend to just give up and then just be like, you know what, everyone feels this way. So if I just make that my identity, then I'll never be hurt. And so I need to go actually back out there again. I know it sounds so dumb, but like I remember trying to apply for colleges and getting rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. And I remember my dad said every no gets you to your yes. And so this one's a little bit more practical, a little bit more like talking about like career, future based things. But I remember being like, okay, I'm just going to apply one more time. The worst they can just tell me is no. Yeah. But then I don't know, that leads me to a yes, right? At some point. So. And
really that is, I mean, you're just smallening, that's not a word. Making the pool smaller, process of elimination.
There we go.
You know? I don't know what I'm saying, but I think those are really good next steps. And I feel like if you're walking out of listening to this and you're like, okay, just try one thing.
Yep.
I don't know. What's the worst thing that can happen? You feel a little bit better. Maybe you feel the same. But
that's true.
I don't know. I think, but I guess that kind of leads to my last encouragement. It's okay to like have a day where you just feel down, and the Lord cares about that. Yeah. He's near to the brokenhearted. He wants to hear that pain. We're not asking you or telling you to not feel it and just be like, go meditate on God's word and don't be sad. Like, you do both. Feel the feelings, feel the rejection, go to the Lord with those things. And it's okay to just be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then my last encouragement would be, just to really sit with, I think, this honest question of like, if this rejection happens, and maybe there isn't something that comes along the next way, like, is the Lord just truly enough? Just him on his own? Because he is sufficient. But a lot of times we're like, yeah, like, God, you're sufficient as long as I get XYZ too.
Yeah.
But really sitting with like, okay, do I genuinely believe if this is it? If it's just me and you, I don't get the guy, I don't get into this college, I don't make it into leadership next year, whatever it is the Lord enough in that?
Yeah.
So that's me.
I think that's great, Brynn. Honestly, friends, I think that's just something for all of us just to really ponder and think about. And so just know that we're praying for you guys. If that's something you are struggling with, being like, help me get out, I would just say you can find us. You can comment below. Let us know. Let us know if you tried one of these things and see how it was helpful for you, so that you can be encouraging for others who may be in the same seat that you're in. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Well StudentCast. As always, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about us. For more information about the Well Student Ministries, visit thewellcommunity.org/students.